Ladies and gentlemen, it is finally happening. We are back. It was just announced this morning, March 7th, 2024, but StarCraft 2 is back. We have a PTR patch that has been announced. I don't know if this is available to download yet. Sometimes it's immediately up, sometimes it takes a little bit, but I have to say, this has been one of the most interesting things I think we've seen as far as StarCraft 2 is concerned in a very long time. We'll start with the simple stuff. There's new maps, 1v1, new 2v2, 3v3, 4v4. They've got a whole new pool for all the modes. Really important for all the people that, you want to occasionally not just play 1v1 all the time. We should support all of these people. We want them to play the game. We want people to want to play StarCraft, however you choose to do that. But this is where things get really juicy. We have, I will say for the first time, a really incredible patch coming out of the Balance Council that addresses a lot of quality of life issues, frustrating aspects of the game, and in my personal opinion, several of the biggest design flaws in StarCraft being addressed in this update. So I'm just going to go through them one by one, and if you get bored, skip ahead till I reach yours. But it's starting with a couple of very cute things. The worker attack range increase. I'm assuming that this is just to make it a little less frustrating when you're in those situations where you're getting all in, cannon rush, what have you, trying to get that probe at the last second. Basically, if you're running close to workers, there's a marginally lesser chance that you'll be able to get away scot-free. So in my mind, this comes across as a change that allows it to basically be more of a defender's advantage in the game. If it turns into a Terran SCV all-in thing, then I don't know. Like, please don't do that. Let us have nice things. Let people have nice things. Don't ruin this, Terran players. And then the worker inner radius, so their collision with stuff. I'm guessing that this just has to do with them moving by kind of booping themselves out, or it's for this specific map feature, which they demonstrate. I think they demonstrate the purpose. I'll try to zoom in on this if I can. I do not have the tech. I'm like scrolling in, but it's not. Anyway, there's new paths where workers can go that other units can't. I believe that's the reason why they made this change. There's new rocks that are Zerg rocks. They blow up off creep. Vespene geysers are now smaller, so less of an issue with getting stuck in them, I'm assuming, as we've seen on one of the maps, there's a base where you can get stuck behind a refinery very easily. Maybe that's 2% easier to deal with now. So we've got concepts for rocks that can die over time. We have the ability to kill mineral fields now, so when you drop rocks on them, you can destroy them. So it seems like we're heading into an era where StarCraft 2 is going to be taking some very dynamic changes to how games will play out. We're going to be able to use terrain in different ways than it's ever been used before. If you want to deny a base from your opponent, perhaps this is a base that would be easier for you to have taken earlier on, but you don't want to give that up. Or maybe it's something that you're going to have to focus on defending. There's cool ideas here. And then we get to the good stuff. The Liberator is having its advanced ballistics range reduced. So that's the Liberator range upgrade. If you ask me, Liberator range has been one of the most toxic and worst upgrades in the history of StarCraft 2 for the single reason that it has completely warped map design. We have been in a meta of maps that have all of the bases around the very edge for the sole reason that it's the only way to prevent ranged liberators from being able to abuse 99% of expansions. It shouldn't be able to outrange everything on the ground and just pick off workers because it gives us very, very, very low quality maps as a result. It absolutely don't. I would personally be happy if they got rid of this and tried something else, but any nerfs to it are great. Great on the principle of giving us back maps. I really like this. If you get drilling claws, your widow mines are perma-cloaked, so you won't lose it if your armory gets killed in a base trade situation. This feels like a pretty nice consolation from them. The armory did have its build cost reduced, but before we get there, the widow mine splash has been reduced, so it's going to hit less units, and it's going to alert you as soon as the mine starts to burrow within its activatable range. You're going to get the notification that your forces are under attack. So you're not going to be completely blind to it until the mine blows up all of your probes. So finally, another unit that's pretty uninteractive for the other player. We see the Widow Mine adjusted. And these are things that I like. We don't want people to hate playing the game. The most frustrating stuff should be tuned down. We want people to feel like they have a chance to play the game. That's super important. So beyond that, armory cost reduced. Congratulations. I think some guy complained about begging for this for maybe 10 years straight. He finally got his dream. Shout out to you. Shout out to you, man. Engineering bay upgrade costs were reduced. So hey, if you're playing bio, the most frustrating thing about it is that you got to research like 15 upgrades before you can go out and do your thing. All right. So I think that giving people earlier access to that 1.1, this just kind of feels like a minor quality of life thing to help players that struggle with their economy get into the groove a little bit faster. But I don't think anybody's going to complain if we encourage bio play, right? Most people prefer to play versus bio, I assume. So throwing them a bone is probably a good idea. You don't want this patch to turn everybody into mech players, right? Anyway, the Cyclone does get a well-deserved nerf. It has a slower attack speed now. It cannot be perma-locked on. I'm going to assume that the perma-lock on change also fixes the bug. I believe the bug was caused by perma-lock on, the fact that it was always searching for the target. So now that can't be a thing anymore, the cooldown delay should prevent that from being an issue. The damage bonus from upgrades is going to be increased. So basically, Cyclones are going to hit a little harder against those heavier units later in the game. So you'll still be able to use them against things like Ultralisks and anyway, you won't be able to kill a million lings with 8 speed Cyclones. So I got to figure out a new strategy. But there's a bunch of other fun stuff, so let's keep going. It now has turret tracking. So a lot of units in this patch that we'll see further down the line, the turrets are just going to always be tracking stuff around. It's quality of life. It effectively allows them to use their attack at the intended damage point or attack speed. So it doesn't add a needless windup, I guess. And it got 20 more health because, hey, it's just not as good as it was in the last patch. It was a problem. Interference Matrix can no longer target units already affected by Interference Matrix. On one hand, this will prevent you from accidentally using Interference Matrix on too many units. This will stop you from overkilling. So now it'll be easier for you to spray Interference Matrix across a whole army. But the downside is that battle cruiser that you want to use the Interference Matrix again, right, when it's got 2 seconds left before it's about to end so it doesn't teleport out, now you can't do that anymore. So make something other than Ravens, please. Zerg gets a couple of changes. Their creep spread radius from the hatchery, lair, and hive has been increased. I think this was just to match the vision of the hatchery, right? Or am I crazy? Or I thought the reason why it was supposed to be 12 was because they raised the vision on the last patch. Is the creep further than the vision again? Are they trying to bring back spine rushes? I don't play Zerg. Let me know in the comments. The Infestor gets a change. Fungal growth range for casting has been increased. So now the Infestor will have a little more of an opportunity to grab you. But the Infestor won't be able to see that full range while it's burrowed. That's very important. So if your Infestor is burrowed, it will not actually see everything that it can fungal. It kind of becomes it's like a blindfolded siege tank, if you will. But not at all. Not at all. It unburrows a little bit slower. It can randomly unburrow a little bit slower. Technically, it could always have unburrowed at the 0.71, but now it won't ever unburrow before 0.54. So what this means is the time that the Infestor takes to unburrow and then cast that fungal, it'll be a little more predictable, I'll say. It's not really slower. They're reducing the range of variance, so it'll be more consistent. It'll be more consistent, I think. So, and now it's a little easier to see them when they're burrow moving. So I think that they want to encourage it, but they don't want it to feel too frustrating to play against. So you should still be able to see it. You should still have some reaction time. And let's not forget fungal growth did have its damage reduced in the previous update. Overlord drops have been nerfed. They take more time to morph by 3 seconds. But they also just move faster. So it's important to keep in mind that a regular Overlord moves slower than a drop Overlord. This was patched, I think, last year. They made it so that if you do transform into a dropper lord, it gains a small speed increase. They are increasing the speed increase. So 1.28 is not that much faster than 1.10. It just means that it'll take 3 more seconds to morph the Overlord, and it'll take 2 less seconds for the Overlord to get in your base. So don't let people drop you with Overlords, and you won't really have to worry about that one. Let's go to the next one. Protos. They made observers build 4 seconds faster. But Protoss, they have a lot of trouble. They have a lot of trouble with keeping their detection consistent. Observers cost supply, and they come out of a building. That's very important. This feels like a good change to help them play macro-based styles, right? Health and shields for the observer have been increased, so the observer gets 10 extra health. Is that what I'm reading, or I don't know if there's look, it doesn't. I can't tell if the first one being health means that the left one is. Of course it is. They made the model bigger, so the observer. Everybody complained. The observer did put on some pounds last year, but it turns out it's actually just a dirty bulk, and he's been consistently working on that. So now he's even bigger. He's even thicker than previous. But the other thing is he's been working out. So it's not he hasn't just put on weight. He's a little more athletic, so he can switch between siege mode and unsiege mode 75% faster. What does this mean? It's easier to see the observer when it is still, when you're looking at it, or when it's moving, maybe because of the model size. The upside is that if you react to your opponent scanning you with your observer, if you see that they're coming to kill it, now you have a faster reaction time possible to unsiege the observer and move it away. That's my interpretation. This will also make it easier to siege and unsiege observers for vision in the heat of combat, say in a PvZ against lurkers. You don't have to wait for it to shrink to come back down if you see that they're coming to try and kill your observer. So this should help observers live a little more easily. I love that. And then here's maybe one of the craziest things I've ever seen. This one, I love it. We haven't experimented with anything fun for Protoss in a tremendous amount of time. This obviously only affects PvP because they've increased the damage for the sentry from 6 to 6 plus 4 versus shields. The only units that have shields are Protoss. So the sentry is now much better in PvP, and it is no longer a light unit, which means banelings can't kill them easily. That's a huge one. Doesn't affect Terran too much because you're usually killing them with Widow Mines or Marines, so you're not, but this is really, really big. Banelings for sentries are going to be able to soak another shot or two, maybe. I don't know the math, but it sounds like a huge deal to me. And it also, I think the real focus of this, I'm being a little facetious, adepts. If adepts try to go through your force fields to dive onto your sentries, the sentries are actually just going to truck them now. The sentries are going to do a 40% increased DPS, or what? No. Like 80% increased DPS. So the adepts are going to really struggle. You won't be able to you can't just dive adepts onto sentries, is basically what this patch is doing. So Protoss players, you are free. You are free from adepts. You can just make sentries like it's 2014 again. And you don't have to worry about adepts. And I'm sure that within a week of this patch going out, we'll probably have some crazy adept versus sentry games. Please send me those replays. I would love to cast them. Or send me them from the PTR. I'm not up to that much. Pylons can now see a little bit further. That just seems like a smart thing, right? I mean, make it a little easier for Protoss to see stuff coming to their base, and they won't feel so obligated to rush to end the game because they can't deal with stuff. So now you have easier to detect Widow Mines that give you a notification as they burrow before they shoot. That's a huge one. And the pylon can see further. So if you put a pylon on the edge of your base, it'll be easier to see the drop coming in. And the Widow Mine also had a pretty big reduction in its splash radius, which means in a hypothetical worst case scenario, you will lose less probes than you would normally. Not that it might still be a huge amount if you clump them up or if you just have a lot of them, but maybe instead of losing 10, you lose 8. I don't know. Margins, right? Margins. So those are the balance updates, and as you have heard, I've gone over all of them, but I really like them. These are great changes that actually move the game in a good direction. We want to encourage people to play games that feel good for both players. It might feel good to win a game in 2 minutes, but you don't want every single person who doesn't like that to be miserable every time they play it. So, and from that point of view, all of the deliberate intended changes look incredible. I am assuming the bugs are fixed as well because of the previous you know, they have the custom patch that they've been playing the tournaments on. So these are some other really interesting changes, and these are under bug fixes and quality of life, but I'm going to take a step further and say that these are significantly bigger than that. So the siege tank turret now tracks previously attacked unit. This is really important. Sometimes some people don't really realize this, but the siege tank, every time you siege it, it always like points its thing in one direction. And in a hypothetical scenario where you would want that to be the intended behavior, you would want to still be able to point it in the other way. Like, say if your opponent spawned on the bottom right, you wouldn't want it pointing in the top left. So I'm guessing that this will stop your tanks from resetting their turrets. I think in siege mode, unsiege mode, sounds cool. I think this is in line with the Cyclone turret tracking. Apparently, the Reaper was bugged. I wasn't aware of that, but that's nice. Sometimes the siege tank attack animation would not play. I have noticed that. It would still fire. You would see an effect, but the tank would just kind of be... It would look like it wasn't doing so well. Issue with Snipe tooltip not showing bonus damage. Readability is great. Fixed an issue where banelings could deal additional damage on ramps. This bug actually had impact in IEM. Almost any time a baneling was attacking a unit and detonating because of that on a ramp, it was damaging twice. I don't want to imagine how many times that has had an impact since it's been in the game for a year. But this PTR solves a very long-standing, huge problem. Activating generate creep on overlords now activates for all selected overlord types. So that just means if you had dropper lords and regular overlords selected, you don't have to tab between them to make them all poop. Now they do it together. So lurkers sub-priority group increased. So now if you have lurkers and ravagers, lurkers will be a higher priority in your command card. So you don't have to tab to the lurkers. The lurkers you will have to tab to ravagers now. So if you liked playing ravager lurker the old way, tough. Fix an issue where immortals would not fire while surrounded by units or covered by force fields. Yeah, immortals have this really weird thing where if they can't stand still, they can't fire. A lot of units can fire while being pushed, but not the immortals. So great fix. Immortal turret now tracks previously attacked unit. So we talked about this with the tank and the cyclone. Same deal. So I love it. Great change. Fixed tooltip on mothership cloak field buff. I thought we were going to get her at least a new purse or something for her birthday, but whatever. Fix various issues with recall. No longer includes units already being recalled. Oh, you can't double recall. The double recall has been fixed. I don't even want to touch that. It's not. It wasn't a good thing to do. People just did it for the lulz. All recall abilities now cancel Adept Transfer and Disruptor Nova. I don't think anybody has a veto to that, right? Feedback can no longer units with no energy. So feedback, you could have feedbacked anything? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that in the game right now? Did they just reveal a huge bug on the live version of the game? Are people going to go feedback everything? Can I feedback a battle cruiser with no energy? What will happen? Oh? Anyway, temp is Tectonic Destabilizer. Also applies attacks to flying buildings. So now you can kill the Terran who floats all their shit faster. Fix an issue where Guardian Shield would not apply to units on a different cliff level than the Sentry. Uh-oh. Hang on, I've seen this anime before. So you're telling me that if so guys, if you put your Sentry on the dead center of the ramp, and then you activate Guardian Shield, your units will get double the effect. Fix an issue where certain Vespine geysers would not update visually when depleted. Well, yeah, they're just holding it in, guys. You gotta talk to them more. Fixed various issues with rocks appearing on the minimap. So the rocks got to glow up. Fixed various issues with healing shrines. And that will be my final comment. For some of these new maps that are coming out this season, other things are going to be explored to bring variety to StarCraft. I think what we've seen with the maps at the top already heavily suggests that the direction the game is going to bring us to a place where there are healing fountains on the map. So we're taking some of these concepts that were actually coming from the other RTS games, but I have no say in this. I'm not a part of any of these discussions. But as somebody who just likes to play StarCraft for fun, changes that make it easier to defend BS, buffs to defenders' advantage, being able to dynamically destroy maps or have rocks destroy themselves, and opening up map design are all things that really make me happy. And this set of changes is among the best that I think they really could have done. I hope we continue to see changes in these directions that add quality of life because there are a lot of people who play this game that have great memories of it, like me, that are not aspiring pros, but we still like to play. We like to play the game because StarCraft is fun. So as long as we're not hyper fixating too much on balance, and we're trying to make changes that increase playability, and just, you know, as we get older anyway, make it so we can still play the game. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll be streaming this as soon as it's up. I'm going to guess a lot of people will want to play this PTR because this looks like a much more fun version of StarCraft than what we have right now. You've been watching Nate. God bless you guys. Have a great day.